Okay, so today I want to just take you through how we add an envelope border to our little swatch that we did before. You'll remember that we've actually, when I did the swatch for my tutorial this time, we have actually added, difficult to see, which is kind of the point, but it's not difficult when you're working it, but to show you here, we've actually got, remember, we left like chains here. So there's basically a chain between the edge or border stitch of the design and the main pattern. Now the reason for that is to avoid the slip stitch round. The traditional way of starting off an envelope border is a round of slip stitches which you work your double crochets or trebles into, but that can be, the first round of picking up those stitches can be really fiddly. So I initially came up, you probably know, I initially came up with an idea of working effectively like this, like a front post stitch around each row end. Which is much easier, I think, than the slip stitch round, but it is quite bulky. And some people also, I think it's maybe, I don't know if it's if you're a pencil grip, that the front post stitches can be a little bit more awkward to do. So I've come up with a different way, which has got, say, you will need to do, to make your border work this way, you'll need to have this chain there between the border stitch and the main pattern. If you haven't got that chain, you can have a little look. There is another way of picking it up without using the slip stitches or the front post stitches. I've got two now pocket edging patterns. There's the other one that is on this swatch, and there's also one that I did on my jacquard sampler. So it's a slightly different video, but that will show you how to pick it up from there. But it's the absolute easiest way is to remember to do this chain before you start, and then we can just use that chain to pick up our border. So the other important thing to do was to make sure that when you did your starting chain, it does have to be a starting chain, not foundation double crochets this way, was to make sure you worked into that back bump when you did your first row, so that left you 2 loops here, which you're now going to be needing. Okay, so I'm actually now going to start at the top here. I've marked the last little chain space on the last row of the swatch when I did it. So we're going to start in this marked stitch here, a marked chain there. Okay, so we're going to start with a standing treble, and I'm not actually going to put a slip knot in this because I just think it makes it a little bit neater when you get to the end to not have that sort of knot sticking out. So I'm just going to twist, you see, I'll start again. So I just twisted the yarn around, so I've got my tail end there, the working bit there, and obviously, yes, we're doing a treble. You can do this, you can absolutely do rounds of double crochets if you want to, and that will look beautiful. But if you want something really quick, then obviously trebles are a lot quicker to do. So we're going to start with a standing treble in this marked chain here. So that's the final chain on your final row of your piece. So, okay, so put that in there. Ooh, a little bit fiddly with a standing treble. Put that in there, yarn over, and I'm going to keep my hand, this thumb, holding that end down while I just work the treble. Okay, so now I'm going to take this marker out of there because it's getting fiddly. Hopefully I can. Okay, come off. Right, so pick that stitch up again. Twisted it around. Fiddly. Right, pick that stitch up again. Now what we are going to be doing, we're going to be working, each corner is basically going to have 2 trebles, 1 chain, 2 trebles, but I'm not going to work 2 trebles here now. I like to keep my chains like in the middle of the corner. So if you were doing another round, then you want to really be able to start right next to your central chain. So just got to remember when we get to the end, we're going to be working into this chain again. Okay, so I've got a treble, I'm now going to do a chain, and then I'm going to make 2 more trebles in that same chain there. 1, 2. Okay, so now we're going to rotate that round. Oh, one thing I should have said as well, when you're doing an envelope border, usually what I would do, if this is a blanket or something that I was going to be keeping and using and washing, is I'll make sure that I've actually tied these two ends together before, so you tie them together in pairs before you trim them, just to make it doubly certain that nothing's going to come unraveled. It shouldn't do, but I just like that extra little security. But I haven't bothered to, because this is just my little swatch. Okay, so now what we do, we've done our first corner, and you might find it useful actually, because there's only the one chain. It isn't always easy to find. Is to just grab a marker and pop that into that chain. Okay, because if you do another round of your border, you're going to be working into that chain for your corner stitches again. Okay, so now it's a case of just coming along the edge, and you can see it's just the chain there, that spare chain. We can just work our treble into that. Simple as that. So you're doing that all the way along, just where you've got that chain at the edge, just work your treble into it. Or indeed, as I said, you could do double crochet. You can do any stitches you want. Okay, so just pick up that loop of that chain and work into it. And you see, you get a nice neat edge there. So just carry on along like so, all the way to the end of this side. When you get down to the bottom edge, I'll meet you there and we'll do the corner again. Okay, so I'm now almost at the end of this edge, so I've just got 2 more stitches to do. So there's one in that sort of last chain there, and now we've got to go right down to this bottom edge. I'm going to pick up to our last stitch, and this is where we're doing our corner into that missed chain, and this is actually the bottom edge, so that's right from the start, the first, from your starting chain, that last missed stitch of that row. So I've done 1 double crochet in there, 1 treble in there, and then I need to do another one. So you've got 2 trebles, 1 chain, 2 trebles, all into that chain there. And as we did before, I said you might find it helpful just to pop a marker in that chain. Okay, so now what we're going to do along the bottom edge is just work into this front chain, front loop of the chain there, all the way along. So nice and easy. Just work your trebles into that, just into that front chain, because we're going to need the back chain when we do our border on the other side. Okay, let's carry along like so, and I'll see you at the end. Okay, so I've now got to the next corner. So this was actually the first chain that we missed right on our starting chain. So as before, when we did the corner back here, it's just a case of working into this front loop there, making 2 trebles, 2, 1 chain, 2 trebles, like so. So I'm just going to pop a little marker in that chain. So when we come to do the next round, we know where our corner is. Okay, and then it's just going to be the same as it was along this edge here. We're now going to work into these chains that we made up the side. So start there, and that's it really. So like so. So just work in to those little chains that we inserted between the edge stitch and the pattern. Marvellous. So you can just now carry on around this round. So when you get to the end, remember, oh, my yarn's got caught up. So just remember when you get to the end to work in this chain here, to work your 2 trebles, 1 chain, 2 trebles. When you get all the way back to where we started, I'll meet you at this very last, or indeed first corner, which I've just come back just to show you, just to remind you that when we now get to this last row, we're actually just got to work into this front loop. Okay, So make sure you're only doing your trebles into that front loop there. Okay. So yeah, carry on along and I'll see you when you get to the end. Okay, so I'm now almost at the end, or like back to where I started. We've just got this last treble we've got to do into this chain, the starting chain that we did at the beginning. So we've now got, in our corner, we'll now have 2 trebles, 1 chain, 2 trebles. So if you, I'm saying on a thing this size, you're probably gonna, may well want to think that you know, this is just the right width, and so that you could finish your border here. And if I was doing that, I would just join, probably join with an invisible join just to sort of finish it off nice and neatly. But I want to show you what you do if you want to make it a wider border. Okay, so what we're going to do, going to end by doing a slip stitch into there. Okay, and also now to keep our corner nice and neat, we're actually going to slip stitch into this chain as well. Okay, because I want to do like we did before, where we sort of start in the middle of our corner. But what we're going to have to remember when we come back is that we're not going to, we need to miss this last slip stitch that took us into there. So what I'm going to do to make that a little bit easier, just going to pop that right the way through like so. There's a little marker in there just to remind us that we're going to miss that slip stitch. Okay, now I need to take this marker out of this chain. Okay, so what we're going to start with, we're going to, like I said, we want to start in the middle of our corner to keep it all nice and neat. So we've got 1, 2, 3 chains, which represents that treble, the equivalent of this one, the standing treble when we started. Then 1 more chain for the 1 chain, yeah, and then we're just going to work 2 more trebles into there. 1, 2. Okay, and now all we're going to do all the way along is just work a treble into every stitch like so. So do that all the way around, and then on each corner we're just going to work 2 trebles, 1 chain, 2 trebles into our marked chain. And actually I should have popped a little marker into there, shouldn't I really? Carry it on. Okay, so I will just see you, we'll just go through this first corner here again together, so I'll see you when you get there. Okay, so I've now come up to the next corner chain again, so I'm just going to take that marker out of there, and it is just a nice simple case, as I said, just work into the chain, not into the chain space. You can work in the chain space if you like, but if you work into the chain, it's going to make it almost invisible, that corner. So 1, 2, 1 chain, and 2 more trebles into that same corner chain. Okay, so now I'm going to just pop that marker back into that chain again, and then we're going to work, say, all the way along just like we did before, doing a treble into every stitch. So just carry on all the way around like so, and I will meet you when we get back to where we started again. Okay, so I've now got back to the sort of start, the end of the round, the start of the round. So what you can see here, I've actually got this stitch here, the last one I'm going to be working into is actually the slip stitch we did at the end of the previous row, the first slip stitch to join. Okay, so we're going to work into that. Then we're going to miss this slip stitch that we marked, because that was just to get me in to that first chain, if you remember. So I'm going to take that out. Actually, we can work into that last slip stitch, will actually be fine. I was going to miss it to go into the chain, but actually it's going to work just as well working into that last marked stitch. Okay, treble. Okay, so just going to work into there, our last treble. And then I'm now finished So I can now, I'm now going to do an invisible join. If you wanted to make your border wider, all you do is say repeat what we did there. So we're going to slip stitch, miss the chain, slip stitch into that top one there. Okay, whoop, get the full thread through, and then you can repeat what we did on round 2, slip stitch into there, your 4 chain, and carry on around. Okay, you can finish off with a slip stitch like that, but I just think it looks neater to do a invisible join. So I'm just going to take this slip stitch out we just did. So done our last stitch into the one that we marked there. So in case you're not familiar with an invisible join, I'll just show you how to do it. There are different ways. Some people can do a visible join with a hook. I think it's easier to show you with a needle. So I'm going to thread the needle. So I'm going to chop that off here. Now what we're not going to pull that through to fasten off like we usually would. We're actually going to just pull this out. So you're left with just one strand of yarn coming out of your last stitch there. Okay, like so. So now we're going to thread this end onto a tapestry needle. Okay, and what you need to do, what we're going to do with now is create another loop effectively. So I'll go around like so for the top of our chain. So you don't do it into the chain. What we're going to do, see this one that's marked, the corner chain, we actually need to insert our hook around there. Okay, so we're going to create a nice loop at the top of our 3 chain. So at the top of it will look just like a normal stitch. Now don't pull it too tight. Okay, so we're just going to do it so it's about the same length as the loops on there. And now insert your needle so back into this loop. Just pick up that back one as well. Just makes it a little bit more secure. Pull it down again, but don't pull it too tight, just get it. There we go. Can you see? So that now looks just like all of the other loops here, but this is the one we've just created there. So say, don't pull the end too tight, just turn it over. We're now going to weave it in. So what I will do with that is just come down here, down this stitch. Be careful not to pull that too tight, just there we go, like so, and then you can weave it in as usual. So what I will do, just go along like so, just under there, and then what I usually do is I'll just wrap that, if you can see, I'm going to wrap that around this stitch, so then go a bit further. And then to make doubly certain that it's all secure, I'm just going to again go back again. Okay, so that should make that nice and secure. You can trim that off, and then you'll just want to do the same with this end here. Okay, so here we are with border 2, which is the one being done on the wrong side, and it's basically a repeat of what we did on the other side. So you can start in any corner you like, but to keep the instructions the same, I'm starting in one of the ones which is basically at the top of our row we're going to do down the sides. Okay, so pick up my yarn when I can find the end of it. Okay, we're going to start then, like we did before, with a standing treble in this chain here. Okay, so through there. Oops, I picked up both. I picked up an extra little strand. We don't really want to do that because when we put all the other stitches in, that'll get complicated. There we go. That's better. So treble, 1 chain, and then 2 more trebles in there. 1, 2, and then remember, if you need it, I mean you might not, but I'm going to just pop that marker into that chain so it's easy to find. There we go. And then it's as before, it's just a case of working all the way down the edge into these chains. So again, don't be tempted to do that, because if you do, if I turn it over, you're going to see a line on the front. So just make sure you're just working into, oh, get hold of that, into the actual chains there. So just pick up that loop that you can see of the chain and do your treble in there. So all the way along, and then the corners will be just like you did on the front, where when you get to that last corner chain, it's 2 trebles, 1 chain, 2 trebles. So basically you carry on all the way along like so. And to be honest, I don't think I need to show you any more there. So if you carry on, complete this side, same as you did for the front one, remembering, like I say, to just work into the chains down the side or into the only loop you've got left to work into when you go down to the bottom or the top. Okay, and I will see you ready to join the two together. Okay, so I've now got right round to the end again of border 2, and I just want to show you this last corner again, because I realized when I did the front I worked into this chain, and I should have done exactly how I've done the marker there. I should have worked underneath both loops. So I'm just gonna I mean, it hardly shows on the front, but it's gonna just make this a little bit neater. Okay, so just finish up the row, which is like finishing off our corner by working under both loops there. I got a treble, there we go, and that's that done. So now I'm going to finish off just like we did on the front with an invisible join. Okay, so we've now got both our borders done. So you'll see top and bottom like so, and we've got our ends sandwiched between the two. So now all we need to do to finish it off is obviously join the two together. Okay, so what we're going to do, back to the right side facing you again, and it's just a nice simple, now you've got a choice, you can either work through both loops like we have around here, or just into, like, if you see, like the middle loops like so, the inner ones. And I think I'm going to do that this time. It's entirely up to you. You do it, it'll just give an extra little design around the edge. So if I was working through both loops, I would do my corner stitches through, like, into the chain spaces. But as we're going to be doing just the back loops, we're going to just work into the actual chains there. Okay, so start with a standing double crochet. So what you need to do is pick up that back loop. So start in any corner, doesn't matter which one, pick up that loop there and like that inner loop there. Okay, of the, so you can see, oh, gone through both. There we go. And a double crochet in there. I'm just going to work 2 double crochets in the corner. So each corner chain will have 2 double crochets in it. And now we're just going to go all the way around like so. So picking up that inner loop there, if you can see, to join the two together, and just do a little double crochet all the way around. So it's like the back loop of the one there, and well, it's still a back loop, but it's the front one as you're looking at it on the back border. Go all the way around like so, and as I say, so keep doing that, and when you get to the corners, just do 2 double crochets into the corner chains there. Okay, so carry on around like that, and I'll just see you when you get back to the beginning. Okay, so here we are with our finished border. I've just now got to the end, just going to show you that invisible join one more time, because this time we're not working over chains, we're actually working over a stitch or standing double crochet. So what we're going to do, so I've pulled that through, so I've just got the one strand of yarn coming out of that last loop of the stitch there. So say we don't work into here because that will create an extra stitch. We're going to be replacing this top loop for this one when we do for our standing double crochet when we do our invisible join. So always make sure you insert your needle to the next stitch. Okay, And as we've said before, don't pull it too tight. Pull that one down out of the way. Don't pull it too tight. Then insert back into the center of that stitch, and just through that back one as well, just for a bit of extra security. And again, just pull it tight enough so it looks exactly the same as all of the others. There we go. So that's how it'll end. And we'll just go through on the back and weave these two ends in as usual. But there we are. So that is how you do a really super easy envelope border. And doesn't it look beautiful? It lays nice and flat, so you don't get any of the curls that you'll get on a single border a lot of the time, and it just gives it a lovely weight. It looks a little bit big maybe for this little swatch, but around a blanket that will look amazing.